Annie Stillwater Gray.
Thank you, Dolores. And thank you for being here. Oh, I'm here because you're here, really. And the first thing we have to get straight right off the bat is that Education of a Guardian Angel was written by my life guide, Darcy Stillwater, Darcyman Stillwater. And I was just the scribe, really. But I'm also the human face on the life guide, Human Connection here. And I want to make it really clear how important it is for you to work with your life guide, to have that conscious connection. Oh, by the way, happy solstice, everybody. That was a great song for the solstice, wasn't it? Huh? Yeah. All right. Okay, who's your life guide? Well, your life guide is a spirit guide, and the reason we use guardian angel is that because in our culture, that's kind of what they're called. That's what they're called in the Bible, and a lot of people are familiar with that term, so we use that term, but the guides themselves prefer spirit guide. And you can, and also life guide. Now, your life guide is simply an entity who has trained to be your spirit helper. And the best news of all is that that life guide is yours. Yours and only yours, unless you want to lend them out, but, I've known people who would do that, but I'm pretty possessive with my life guide. He's right here, so he's helping me out today. This is my first time, so, yeah. Oh, yeah, I've given seminars and workshops before, but never at a big conference like this. So this is new for me. Also, this is new for me. All right, so I wouldn't be surprised if when some of you pass over, that you were tapped on the shoulder and said, you don't have to go back to Earth as a human again if you don't want to. You have the opportunity to train to become a spirit guide, which is what happened to Darcy. And of course, Darcy, he lived in the early 1800s. He died in 1836, so he wasn't familiar with the term spirit guide. He kind of knew guardian angels because he went to church, and as a matter of fact, he was in, Jane Austen's father was a pastor, and he was in that church at the same time she was there. So, hence he got his name, such as it is. Anyway, he said, well, what's a spirit guide? So the first thing they did is they showed him what spirit guides do. And then he kept saying, he met his own spirit guide who had guided him through that last Earth lifetime, and took him on a little tour of Spirit Guide University and see what everybody was doing. And so he signed on. So this is his first time too, Darcy's first time too, as a spirit guide. So you may have more experienced guides, life guides. I had another fellow who just interviewed me call them primary guides, but they like the term life guide because they help you get ready for Earth life. They go over your karma that you have to face. They help you make your soul contract. They help you design your birth chart, your birth imprint. And then they help you pick your parents. Usually, I remember in my situation, I had 20 different sets of couples to pick from, but they all had similar, similar issues, let's say. So you really can't get away from your karma. And then, of course, the life guide helps you through the birth process, which was terrifying for Darcy because I was born in a time when there weren't doctors in the hospital overnight. I'm ancient, really. And the nurses drugged my mother, and so they had to pull me out with forceps, and the doctor had a tea time, and he wanted to get to the golf course, So I was kind of a mess when they pulled me out. They twisted me and pulled me, and I had marks, and but that was, and my guide, Darcy, was very upset. He said, look, this perfect little being, this perfect soul, and now look at her, And luckily, my mother's guide was there and said, we were just setting her karma. Okay. So I'm very pleased to be standing here today without a back brace, without any crutches or anything, because, I've had to have those things. So healing is a great thing. You know, I got to say, I'm so impressed. I've met a number of you, and I hope to meet more of you, but I'm just so impressed with how wonderful you all are, you know, how dedicated to healing and to your paths, and how open you are to what's going on here. I think it's just great. I'm giving you a hand, actually. Anyway, so that's who your life guide is. And this entity, and I'm pretty sure I'm right when I'm saying this, has always had Earth experience. I mean, there's all kinds of entities, you know, and some have not actually been incarnated in a human body. But your life guide will always have an Earth experience because they need it. You know, they need it to help you. They go through a lot of training. Sometimes people ask me, oh, my grandfather just passed over. Is he my guide now? He may look in on you, you know. He may visit you, but he hasn't gone through spirit school, right? So it takes a long time. Darcy died in 1836, and I was born in 1946, so that's 110 years Earth time. Of course, guides don't have time like we do. But it takes a long time. He had to go through classes on unconditional love, on non-judgment, on reading birth imprints and death imprints, on reading energy patterns, and in telepathy. Basically, what I teach when I do seminars is telepathy, because if you can get your telepathic center working, you can talk to anything. Anything that has vibrations, you can talk. And you know how scientists say we only use a small portion of our brains? Well, welcome to the age of Aquarius. Things are changing, and we're using more of our brains, and we can activate that telepathic center, which is right here, down from the crown and behind the third eye. And one of the things I tell people to do is, if you're standing in line at the bank or in the grocery store or something, light it up. Put light right in there. Just light it up, and get that going. Get that part of your brain fired up, because that is the best way to not only connect with, but communicate on a regular basis with your life guide. And believe me, talk about transformation. That transformed my life, having my guide as a part of my life. And it happened at a low point, as you might imagine. I had a bad back injury. I had lost my job. I've been in radio for years. Not recommended. It's a very unstable profession. But in fact, I've been fired 10 times. You know, sometimes just for being a woman. But anyway, so I had been fired. I had a back injury. I was living in a pre-Civil War Cape with one electric outlet and no running water. I just had a hand pump in the kitchen. So in order to do the dishes, I had to pump the water into the kettle and then move the kettle over to the wood stove and stoke the stove and heat the water and then move it back over and pour it in, which is pretty hard for somebody with a back injury. And I was pretty discouraged with life, you know. I said, if this is what it's going to be, forget it, you know. So all of a sudden, in my mind, comes this voice. And I know it wasn't my voice because it was British and it was male. And he said, you know, you never listen to classical music. How about we listen to classical music today? I thought that I had lost my mind. You know, and so I said, okay. So I had, this is 89, so it was before CDs really came in. So I walked over to this wall of vinyl, and I didn't even look. And while I'm walking over, Darcy's saying to me, well, I'd love to listen to Bach, but I believe you only have one Beethoven record. So I walked over like this, and I pulled it out without even looking. He just guided my hand right to it. So we listened to it, scratches and all, you know, good old vinyl. And from then on, you know, we became best friends. I mean, not that we didn't have hurdles, we did. It takes some getting used to hearing your guide speak to you. Now, everybody connects with their guides in different ways. I recommend the telepathy simply because it can be so clear and you can get such precise information. I mean, this whole book was telepathically transcribed. You know, every morning I would get up and he'd say, all right, today we're going to talk about our lifetime in Egypt. You know, and I'd write it out. And So I recommend telepathy highly. But there's plenty of other ways you can walk out this door and work with your guides right away. I bet a lot of you already do, right? Yes? Yeah? Yeah. More every time I ask that question, which is great. For one thing, the time is right. I mean, the energy on the planet is increasing, and it's helping us make these connections. I often like to begin by thanking our ancestors, because if it were 100, 120 years ago, we'd be home doing the washing by hand, and feeding the chickens and stuff. And we wouldn't have time to do this kind of work, but I'm so glad that we do, because the earth is in a time of transition, transformation, if you will, and we're here to see it through. What an exciting time to be alive, huh? And we all chose it. We all chose to be here for this great transformation. And what I like about it is, even though there may be some jiggling along the way, some people would say chaos, but if we are centered within ourselves and we know where we'd like to see it go, we can all take it there. And of course, I'm sure you know we're talking about working from the upper chakras, from the heart and above, so that we're dealing with everything and everyone with love and compassion. I mean, it all comes down to that, really. It's all about love. So your guide can help you there. All right. So in the book, there's plenty of stories. It's really, I tried to get it published for 14 years. Darcy and I wrote this in 2000. Dolores was wise enough and was enough of a visionary to see how valuable the information in this book is. It really shows you the potential. What can happen when you connect with your life guide? And it doesn't mean you're hooked into just that one guide, because that life guide can bring in other guides. But I just was interviewed and someone said, well, we can change our life guide, can't we? I said, well, maybe not in this lifetime. because they sign on just like you do. You sign your soul contract and they sign on to be with you. Now, if you need help, other help, they'll bring in other guides. Say you start a new job, maybe you need some extra help and encouragement, they'll bring in another guide. You start a family, maybe you need a nanny guide, something like that. So whatever you need, your guide is watching out for you and bringing in that, whatever it is you need. So it's really wonderful. I can't tell you how my life changed once I started working with Darcy. So that was September 1989 when he first talked to me in the old kitchen. And he taught me a grounding and clearing meditation that I used so that I would be sure that I was getting him, and not just, because I'm another one of the people who live in my head a lot, so I try not to get it cut off here, but get it going, right? And he said, okay, I want you to be really, really clear and really, really grounded, because something big is going to happen. I'm like, oh, God, what's that? And I went to visit my mother on Christmas Day. She ran a motel, so I had my own room, so I brought beautiful balsam fir boughs from Maine, and I decorated with lights and everything. And then I got up Christmas morning, and my mom had the TV on. And if you may remember 89 was the big uprising in Romania, where they killed the king, and they killed his sons, and his whole family got slaughtered. It was Christmas Day. I cried. I said, what is this planet coming to? This is a holy day. And it's not like Romania is not Catholic, they are, And I just was abhorred. So after I had a good cry, I walked outside, and a guide started talking to me, and I knew it wasn't Darcy. You may have this experience yourself, so I'll tell you. When a master guide talks to you, or if you get angelic messages, they often have a timbre to them. They have like a ringing as the entity speaks. There's a ringing. So this was the master guide, Archilus, said to me, how would you like to be a leader in the new time? And I went, what exactly are what does that entail exactly? Could you be precise? Because I don't know what I'm going to get into here. So he said, well, first we want you to just write down some information that humans are ready to have. I can do that. You know, I'm a writer, I can do that. So for all of 1989, 1990, that was during the first Gulf War, I got up at dawn every morning and I wrote down messages from the master guides. And that was the first book Darcy and I did together called the Dawn Book. And what it is it's kind of a workbook, a spiritual workbook for our time. It helps us really zone in on what's happening and how we can make the best of it. Because let's face it, when things are in transformation, you have a hand in guiding it. You know, when things are in flux, you can help the flow go where you wish it to. And believe me, I would only say it to a group of people like you, because I know you have such good hearts and you want to see everything go well. But yes, we can definitely take the earth to a new place. In fact, the Spirit calls it a new golden age for humanity. I mean, you know, it's always a possibility that won't happen, but I think it will. I think because of Dolores and people like you here, it will. Especially if you work with your guides. Your guides will always keep you on your right track. Now, I wrote some things down because I didn't want to get the names wrong here. But everybody who's spoken so far has given you helpful information on working with your guides. Ronald Chapman talked about breath. Well, one of the 4 cornerstones of working with your guide is breath. And he taught a breath. I'm going to teach you a different breath, a real easy one. It's called the balanced breath, and some of you may already know it, where you breathe in, let's say on a count of 4, since I'm a musician. Breathe in on a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and then breathe out for a count of 4, and hold for a count of 4, right? Just a balanced breath. Now, you could make it longer if you wish. I was doing a workshop with a bunch of cigarette smokers, and they went, 4? Come on, 10. So you adjust it to what's good for you. And of course, Sherry O'Brien did a visualization. Visualization is another cornerstone of working with your guide. And you know, some of you may be better at some things than others, but hopefully visualization is something that you can do and your guides will help you. Blair, as Tabash said, every day, look for signs of the God energy speaking to you. And indeed, looking for signs that your spirit guide is there helping you. My guide knows that I love bird songs. So have you noticed how many birds have been singing between the hotel and here? And also at my home, surrounded by singing birds all the time. It's just moves my heart. Then Patrick talked about dreams. He also mentioned the Akashic Records, and your life guide can help you access them. And one of the great things that your guide, some of you may work a lot with dreams, and your guides actually can form dreams. They're beautiful. They're these beautiful spheres of light, and they put information or images in them for you, and they slide them right into your head. So that's another way you can connect with your spirit guides. And Robert Boval talked about telepathy, bless his heart. When he was facing that boar, that angry boar, he connected with that boar telepathically to tell the boar that he was not dangerous and that everything was in the universe was fine. So that telepathy, that telepathic link is really important. And I have favorite trees that I talk to all the time. I converse with my garden. Of course, this is a big deal for me because I've been in Maine for a long time, just by myself in my garden, talking with the elementals, hanging out, playing with them. So this is really thrilling for me to be here. And I really appreciate you all getting up and being here too as well. All right. Now, the advantages of working with your guide are many. You have a constant companion. Even if you're traveling alone like I am, there's your guide right by you to help you. Driving across Nevada all alone on the desert. No, you're not. Your guide is right in the shotgun seat there. You have love whenever you want it. Having a bad day? No worries. Just find a quiet spot. I sometimes say, go into the restroom. But find a quiet spot where no one can bother you and ask your guide for a love bath. They really enjoy doing that. Just raining beautiful pink light, filling you with pink light, and you feel so much better. You can have, of course, information on numerous things. past lives, of course, and joy. Oh, they bring so much joy. I want everyone to have a very joyful solstice today, because the good news is you all have your life guides with you, and I do welcome all the life guides, and there are other guides here too. We have a peanut gallery of guides watching too. It's great. They're all cheering me on. Yeah. So I'm glad to see them. I'm glad to have them here. They also have a great sense of humor. Oh, they're wonderful. There's a book called Companions in Spirit by Leah Maggie Garfield. It went out of print, and then I think they reissued it with a different cover. But she had spirit guide contact her whole life, and so did her mother, and so did her grandmother. So she writes about it. And it was a book that helped me understand what was happening to me. She talks about this woman who had a terrible car accident, and she was in the hospital in traction for 6 months. And her guide, her life guide, sat next to her and told her jokes the whole time. Here's an example of how the wry humor of my British guide. He said, "Let's go for a walk by the river. I'm going to take you to a very holy place." I went, "Oh, great, holy place." So we walked along this old train tracks that are now a path, and there was this pine leaning out over the Kennebec River. And so he led me out there, and I'm standing there, and I looked down, and the earth had fallen through the roots, and so there were holes everywhere. See what I mean? So your guide will always be there to cheer you up and bring a sense of humor. And each one of you will connect with your life guide in a different way. Every relationship between a person, a human, and their life guide is unique, very sacred as well. Now, this is the first time that I've talked about this in public, but it's in the book, so you're going to know anyway when you read the book. But as we were working on writing the Dawn book, Darcy proposed to me, and I said, "What? Wait a minute, you're in spirit, I'm human, you can't carry in my firewood, you can't help me fix my car. What is this, And he said, "Yes, but I can love you even better than any human can love you." And I went, "Well, okay, but let's not talk about it. Now let's just finish the book," right? But he was very persistent. He was persistent. And at the time, I was working with a healing group, and we would take turns leading, and it was my turn to lead, so we did a visualization, and we all had to talk about what kind of experience we had. And during the visualization, he got right down in front of me on his knee, and he said, "This is it. I want you to marry me." So I had to tell that to the group, if I were to be honest. So they all went, "You said yes, didn't you?" And they said, "Well, we'll all come to your wedding, okay." So I said to Darcy, I said, "All right, I'll do it. But I want to reserve the opportunity to also have a human husband because, I live out in the wilds. There are more moose than people. I really think I'd like to have an actual physical guy there." And sure enough, we were married in 1991 on the Celtic New Year, November 1st. And in 1996, I married my current husband. So I've got the best of both worlds, It's really great. And no conflicts. It's all love. It's great. So I really encourage you to walk your path with your guide. It's a wonderful, amazing, love-filled experience. Not that you have to marry him, but I'll say that every one of you, your life guide and you have had some form or connection. Somehow in past lives probably. It may go, and again, in the book, there's wonderful stories of past lives, and you can follow karma from one life to another, and understand better how karma works. Let me check my time and see how many stories I can tell you. Ooh, I have time to tell you some stories. The first lifetime that's in the book is about Egypt, which is very fitting since we had the pyramids on the screen last night. And I was an astrologer. I was in the healing school there. I was one of the healers. Evidently, when I was really young, I picked up a bird and healed it when I was like 4 or something. So my parents, I was in Alexandria, to let me go to the healing school at a young age. And then I became a teacher, and who was in my class but Darcy? He was about 5 years younger than me. Well, I didn't know it at the time, but he was completely enthralled with me, and then things got more and more complicated in my life as the pharaoh wanted me. I was an astrologer as well, and I am again this lifetime. And wanted me to go down to the, to his palace, and be on his staff of astrologers, and be on his staff of healers. And Darcy, whose name was Het in that lifetime, missed me greatly, and it turned out that he eventually joined me there, and we were married and stuff. But when he started training for a spirit guide, I think it's chapter 3, so at least read to chapter 3. He remembers me. They had to put a lifetime without us together for Darcy, so he would forget me, and he would be able to make his decision to be a spirit guide without remembering who I was, remembering me, because we'd been paired many times. Father and daughter, husband and wife, both, sometimes he was the male, sometimes I was the male, So we had been paired many, many times. So when he finally starts reading these lifetimes, the Egyptian one, there's one of the father and daughter as Inuits, he says, well, where is she? She was my teacher. She was my teacher. She knew way more than I did. She was way more advanced than me. Why isn't she here? I screwed up. And I made a big mistake in one of my lifetimes. And I really wasn't sure about writing this book because it pretty much bears my karma to the world. But if it's going to help you, it's okay. Because I have forgiven myself for that long ago lifetime, which, by the way, was right along the Germany-France border. It was the Middle Ages. I mean, who knew anything in the Middle Ages, really? Gosh. And, I was the male in that lifetime and had 8 kids again. What was there to do? So I had 8 kids in 11 years and had a hard time keeping a job. Gee, that sounds kind of like this lifetime. Anyway, I came home after I moved my whole family to a bigger city to get a job, and then I lost it after a little while, and I was very discouraged, very upset. Came home, there are all the 8 kids, the baby in arms, the oldest son, and my wife, who is Darcy, knew instantly something was wrong. So I said, I had an argument with the wheelsmith, I lost my job. And the oldest son started doing what 11-year-olds do, Oh, daddy's a loser, meh, meh. And boy, lost my temper. We all lose our tempers sometimes, but I happened to lose it in a bad way. I kicked the poor kid. And back then in the Middle Ages, they couldn't take him, brush him to the hospital and operate on him because he had internal organ damage. So the kid died. Now here was, you might think that was my mistake, and it was. But it was, I didn't mean to hurt him, it was unintentional. So my mistake was what came next. The thing I really should have done, now I look back on it, from all these lifetimes later, is become a better father, help my wife more, spend more time with the family, and forgive myself. But I didn't do that. Again, it was the Middle Ages. So what did I do? Lock myself away in a room, and I flailed the leg that had taken my child's life. I cursed myself and I cursed the leg. Curse, curse, curse. And didn't eat, didn't participate. I mean, my wife came in, brought in the baby, the priest, nobody. I wouldn't listen to anybody. I wasn't worth it, right? That's the way I thought. So here's where I get to talk about death imprints. We all know about birth imprints. They're your birth chart, your astrological chart. There are also death imprints. And the death imprint happens at the moment of your last breath, just like the birth imprint happens at the moment of your first breath. And whatever happens in that death imprint carries over to whatever is next for you. It's part of your next soul contract. It's a part of whatever your soul, whatever path you're on, what's next is that has to incorporate that death imprint. So my death imprint was so dark. There was a little tiny pink light in the middle to show that, oh, well, it's still a soul, you know, there's still something there. And the leg that I had been cursing was just a line like that. The next lifetime, I was born with no leg. So people say the curses aren't real, but if you put them on yourself and you die with one on your breath, it's going to go into your death imprint and it's going to carry over. So I was a cripple, a young crippled woman in India and in Bombay, and only lived to be about 20. And then, so this lifetime I'm still working off that, you know, that's the twisting in the birth canal and all that stuff. That's part of the working off that karma. So the book really helps you understand the flow of karma from lifetime to lifetime, even though I myself am the guinea pig in it, but it's, you know, it helps you understand it's good. All right, so your life guide can help you with that, can help you understand what your soul contract says. I mean, we all have one. It's too bad there's not a toll-free number, right? Call up. Could you please send me my soul contract? But we have to work with our intuition, with our life guides to get that information. Although by the time you get to be, you know, over 40, let's say, and you start getting an idea of what your basic issues are, because they keep coming around, right? They keep coming around until you really face them and you get them right. So this is an opportunity to give you some tools so you can work with your guide. I mean, you can leave right now today and start working with your guide as soon as you walk out of here, and right this minute even. I mean, your guides are right beside you, right next to you, behind you there, beside you there. So you can start working with them right away. If you don't have that telepathy thing happening right off, it's okay. We have lots of tools. You know, the tarot, we have pendles. I find it easy just if I need some quick information to pendle. So, you know, there's all kinds of ways you can reach through and all kinds of practitioners to help you do it too. But I think it's important for you not to just go to readers all the time, although that's helpful, but for you to take time to connect with your guide. Another thing you can do is, if you really want to know something, ask your guide to bring you the information. I usually tell people to write it out and be really exact about it, because if you're not exact, you may be surprised what happens. I had a friend who really wanted a mate. So she said, I want someone who can handle money well, right? So she met that person, but he was already married. She forgot to say, unmarried person that handles money well. So be very specific when you're asking. All right, I'm going to get a drink here. You know, I'm going to take questions. Trying to think, okay, Darcy, tell me if I've missed anything. Because I really want you to ask questions, or if you have a little short story about working with your guide, or that you know your guide, and that has happened. I had a friend who, okay, can we have a mic, Cherokee? Oh, he says we won't need one for him.
You mentioned earlier on that someone came to you and said, sort of, my spirit guide is, there's someone who's just passed over. And then later on you said that Darcy had known you from previous lives, so on and so forth, but that he then had to almost forget you to be your guide. Could you explain that a little bit?
All right, say again, say. Yeah, go ahead and put the mic on him. We want to get this on the tape. It's one of the reasons that we do it this way.
Is it on? 1, 2. Okay. You said earlier on that someone had asked you if the person that they knew had just passed over was their spirit guide. Mm-hmm. And then later on you were talking about Darcy, as in knowing him in previous lives. And then you said he almost had to forget who you were to become your guide. Could you explain that a little bit more?
Yes, all right, got it. They wanted Darcy to make his decision to train to be a spirit guide because it's a big deal. There's a lot of work involved, and patience, and perseverance, and dedication. They wanted him to make that decision without memory of me. If he had memory of me, he would go, oh yes, of course. I want to be back together with her, I'll do it. But they wanted him to make that decision free of that memory. Okay, yes, right here.
When you converse with your spirit guide telepathically, do you actually hear something in an audio way? Or I guess my real question is, how do you know that you're really speaking with your spirit guide or listening, or is it just your own thoughts? Is there a difference?
Excellent question. I'm glad you asked that.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, because it did take me a little while. Of course, I was lucky. My guide's male and has an accent. So when I hear his voice in my head, that's what I hear. But what I can tell you is that with your own thoughts, they go around in your head. But when you're talking with your life guide, it resonates all the way through you. Gut, heart, everything. You feel it and you hear it. It's everything. Now, not everybody's going to be telepathic right away, but a lot of people connect, with feelings. People connect with dreams. There's lots and lots of ways to make that connection. Clear? Clearer?
Is that like vibration?
You feel it. You feel it here as well as here.
I always have like this ringing, but it's not in my ear. It's out here, and it's constant.
Oh wow!
It's it's like if I eat something that I shouldn't eat, it gets louder.
Oh wow!
And is that them?
I think so. I'm getting a picture of your guide as a very jolly fellow with lots of bells on. So it's possible that he's like, whoa, ringing those bells for you. But if that bothers you, does it bother you to have the ringing?
Well, it's been like for the last 10 or 12 years.
So you've kind of gotten used to it. But if you can develop the telepathic thing, maybe he'll either take his bells off. I mean, he's trying to get your attention. That's what he's trying to do. That's why the ringing. So yes, the answer is yes. All right, there's one there, one there.
Hi.
Hi.
Again, this is communicating with your spirit guide, and how do you know what it is? With me, the easiest time for me to communicate with spirit guides is like when I'm traveling, and there it'll be kind of like, well, go this direction or go that direction, and it just seems to me that this doesn't seem like, I know that it is like a good spirit guide as versus somebody who just wants to get me in trouble. So how do you tell?
Yes. Well, for one thing, you'll feel the love. I mean, I know that sounds simple, but it is true. I did a class, a workshop with a woman who said, oh, my spirit guide is so dark and so evil. I went, that's not your guide. Get out of here. Your guide is full of love. Your guide, for one thing, your guide loves you. So if you feel the love, if you feel that's a loving thing that entity is saying to you, then perhaps it is your guide. But if they're trying to confuse you, that's not. No, your guide is watching over you for your best interests. And you can ask, if you feel like there's an entity bothering you, please ask your guide to exit that entity and come closer and protect you. They'll do that. They'll sit and they'll put their arms right around you. They'll comfort you when you need it. Whatever you need, they'll try to bring it to you from the spirit side. They can't move material objects, but they can work with energy. They're also very good working with, birds and things like that, so that they can send you messages. That's why I talked about the signs there, because working with your guide, watch for signs. Watch for animal signs, birds, the wind. You can read the light through trees dappling on the ground. There's so many ways that you can connect. But it's all about love. Keep that in mind. We have another one? Yes, right there.
Mine is more of a story. I hate to cook. I've always hated to cook, and I wanted a better diet. And I was eating a lot of canned soups and sardines and things. And so I asked a guy to please help me with my diet. I wanted to have a healthy body. And I noticed that I started itching everywhere, that my body was toxic. And so I asked, please, give me a diet. So all of a sudden, I got one of my guides. I don't think it was my primary, it was a dietitian. And all of a sudden, when I would go to pick a food, I would get a nope. And I'd say, okay. And then I'd grab another food object, and I'd hear like, nope. And then, okay, I'll drink this. Okay. And then when I go to sleep, I get woken up. You have to drink water.
Okay.
I'm not letting you sleep until you drink water.
Yeah.
And this has been going on for like 6 months, and it's been a real cleansing. It's been beautiful. So I have a dietitian guide.
Dietitian guide. Wonderful. Yeah, you're looking wonderful, so it's working. Couple more.
Thank you. Mine's more of an observation. I'm one of Dolores Cannon's hypnotherapists, and I had a message come through during a session that said, you humans, she said, you struggle. You never ask for help. We're sitting there waiting to help you. You just got to ask. And the other secret is there's no bad marks for how many times you ask.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yep. So he basically said, ask. Don't be afraid to ask.
I was told by a psychic that an imaginary playmate that I had as a child was my spirit guide.
Mm-hmm.
And I can still see him. He was about 18 to 20, and I can still see him and visualize him in my mind's eye. But I haven't been able to really contact him like seeing him since then. And I wonder, is that what he looks like? Do you see your spirit guide?
I do, but I'm good with visuals. I'm an artist, so. But feeling him is most important, feeling the love. But you can develop an image. They tend to project an image that they know you will be open to. I did a class once with a bunch of nurses, Mercy Hospital in Portland, Maine, and this little young nurse at the end had just lost her grandmother, and she was very upset about it. So her guide, it wasn't her grandmother, but showed up like a grandmother figure because the guides knew that she would be really open to having a grandmother type of guide. So they will show you, they will project an image, they will choose it so that it's easy for you. Go, oh yeah, I like that. I can get with that.
I was wondering how involved Darcy is or was involved with your new human husband.
Well, my human husband, whose name is Andy, knew about my work with spirit and knew about Darcy from the very start. Our first date, he bought a copy of the Dawn book, so there was no secrets there. And he actually likes the fact that I don't have to be involved with him 100% of the time. I have Darcy and all my activities, so it's really great. He's an Aquarius too, so he can detach and say, go for it, All right. Hi.
Will Darcy be reassigned to a new soul when you cross over?
That has yet to be determined. It's possible we'll work together again, and who knows what happens for me. This work that I'm doing, this is my life's work now that I'm doing here, so thank you, Dolores. And when he made my spirit contract, there were still 4 black pages or 4 karmic pages that weren't worked into my spirit contract this time. Now, whether I'll be able to nullify them through this work or not, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen for me. My life's not over yet. There's still more to go, and it'll all be determined. What I'm really excited about, though, is that the energy is right for every single one of you to to connect with your life guide and to work with your life guide. It'll just make not only your life better, but the whole planet. I really like that. Anybody else? I thought I saw another hand. Yep.
Over here, way in the corner.
Hi.
Hi. I was wanting to share some early experiences that I had with my guide. The first time that I heard my guide clearly, I was meditating, and sometimes I would place an intention before I would meditate. And so the intention that day was what one focus of my life would lead me the furthest in my spiritual growth and my evolution. And so I sat there for a while. I was in college at the time, and I was in my apartment, and my roommate I knew was in class, so I was there by myself. And so I was, it took me a little while to get my mind quiet. And so then right off to my left ear, and it was almost as if somebody was sitting right there next to me, about arm's length away. And if I hadn't known that I was there by myself, I might have even opened my eyes and looked, and seen if somebody was actually there or not. But it wasn't inside my head like I would normally experience a telepathic experience. It was actually, it had like a physical position to it. And the voice said, "Well, now that you're finally still, now listen."
Very
and
good.
So I thought, oh, all right. So I'd heard about guides at the time, and I hadn't really had a lot of contact with my guide at that point that I was conscious of. So then I went back into my meditation, and I started focusing on keeping my mind quiet. But then this song came in my mind and kept playing. And at the time I was a musician, so a lot of times I would have music in my head as I was walking from place to place or doing things. And so I thought that was a distraction. We think these background noises and stuff are distracting us, so we try to get them quiet. And then I heard the voice again, "No, listen." So then I started listening to the lyrics, and it was a song that had just come out around that time. And it was this one little section of the song that just kept repeating over and over, and it was "Let Love Rule."
Oh, nice.
Just kept repeating over and over and over again.
Yes. Very good.
So then later, as I was learning more about my guide, I had another experience where I was really wanting to see my guide materialize physically, so that I could see my guide.
Have an image, sure.
Exactly. So again, this was a little while later, but again, I was meditating, and I'd been focusing on that intention for a while, maybe 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. And so then in my meditation, I just got this very clear thought: open your eyes. And so I opened my eyes, but I was still in this very deep consciousness state. And then right in front of me, this little light kind of started to form, and then it sort of formed like this little, almost like this little glowing cloud. And I could tell something was really starting to happen. And then this part of me just had the thought, no, I'm not ready for that.
Ruh-roh.
So then I just received the thought at that point, it's all right. I'm not going to force you into anything you're not ready for. So it was enough, though. I mean,
it was enough,
it was enough. I realized afterwards that, I knew something was really starting to happen, and I've never really asked for that again. But since then, I've learned a lot about communicating with my guides. So I've had some really good communications with my guides since then.
He brings up a very good point. The 4 cornerstones of working with your guide. Meditation is definitely one, right? Breath, I taught you the balanced breath. Prayer, which I always leave up to the individual. And, what's the other one? Visualization, that's it, yes, that's it. And there are other things you can do too, like ceremony. I think our culture has lost the real meaning of ceremony. There's weddings and bar mitzvahs and things like that, but I personally didn't really want to face aging. My mother was one of the ones who quoted Betty Davis, "Aging is for sissies." So I had a croning ceremony. I had an Apache croning ceremony so I could embrace being older and hopefully wiser, So everybody, you can design your own. You don't have to go that route, but to have things that mean, and wasn't it Sherry that talked about ceremony, letting the butterflies go? Yeah. So bring ceremony into your life. Yes. Hello. You got a mic down here for her? Go
In
right ahead.
2006, I was driving from Cleveland to Akron. I was walking in Cleveland, and it was winter time, and was, you know, a yucky day. I fell asleep.
Oh, no.
Out completely.
Gosh.
So when I woke up, by someone hit me very hard.
Oh.
And I woke up, and it was inch from the rim, and behind me was a truck coming. And I knew that was my angel. And they do that often with me, not in this horrible situation, but they talking to me only this way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, dropping something or clicking something.
Yep.
Why are they not talking to me?
Well, ask them to.
Why they don't need to?
Right, exactly, exactly. Ask them to. Ask them, yes, ask them to talk to you, exactly. If you have any questions, I've got to wrap it up. I've only got a couple minutes, so. But I'm going to be out at the author table. You can come out and talk to me there. Yes, go ahead, one more.
Thank you. I understand the power of intention, and I have a question about that. At one very low point in my life, I made an ill-advised request to my guide. I said, "Thank you for your service, but you can go now." Mm-hmm. And I certainly regret that. I just wonder if my intention was powerful enough to drive off my guide, and what would happen?
No. However, you can, they have a creed, you know, the spirit guides have a creed, it's in the book. But one of the things you can ask for is privacy. So your request was probably honored, but not for very long. I mean, your guide's always going to be close watching over you. Invite him back in, too, if that's what you want. So you can ask for privacy if you wish, but they'll come right back in after you don't need it anymore. All right, I think come out to the Ozark Mountain table, and I'll talk with you there. You've been a wonderful, wonderful audience. Thank you for your questions. Bless you all and your guides.